Hello everyone! Last time we covered the story of Tyrande, from Classic all the way to the start of Legion. And today we're gonna be wrapping up her story so far. I really hope that I've been able to show that Tyrande in the books and from Warcraft 3, that she's kind of a badass. She is very much favored by Elune, which allowed her to rise to the rank of High Priestess so very quickly. Where other priests had failed, she had succeeded. Elune clearly favors her, not even willing to let her step into danger when Tyrande unknowingly asked for it. But never throughout her years did she demand Elune to offer up her powers. Never did she credit herself for the gifts. It was all due to the beloved goddess, and she was merely a vessel. She asked and was blessed by an answer, but she also accepted it when none of it came. Leading the Night Elves for millennia, while Malfurion slumbered. It can't have been easy, and she has helped save the world more than once. The power couple of Stormrage and Whisperwind, when these two work together, well, they've accomplished some insane things. While at the same time, she doesn't just go along with whatever he tells her to do.
Only the goddess may forbid me anything.
Sadly though, that character design doesn't flow over well into World of Warcraft. She shows up here and there and offers aid for situations. But then, when she does get a moment to shine, we get dialogue like,
"Hush, Tyrande."
Or make other characters look better, like,
"Patience, Tyrande."
Which is, in my opinion, just a real shame. So yeah, we left the story at the Expansion Legion, where the Burning Legion, it tried to take another bite out of Azeroth, the biggest Legion assault the world had ever seen. Illidan Stormrage also made a return, and he was right back in Warcraft 3. That really was the last moments that the trio saw each other. All really got connecting them during this expansion was a farewell message at the end. After Illidan finished his millennia-long mission of sacrificing it all to defeat the Legion, and then decided to stay behind at the seat of the Pantheon, where Sargeras was imprisoned.
I sense a sorcerer's touch upon this crystal.
Tyrande, long ago, you trusted me enough to defy Malfurion's wishes and free me from my prison. But over time, that faith was lost. And like my brother, you came to believe that the choices I made had driven me to darkness. Know that every path I took led toward a single purpose, saving our world. I could abide no half measures, no compromise. At those times when I faced doubt, I held true to one constant. One anchor. You. You have always embodied the best of Azeroth, Tyrande. Your faith, your devotion. Through the darkest times, my belief in you never wavered. My fate, my duty, are now clear to me. I leave Azeroth's defense to you, and to my brother. Take care of him, Tyrande. Though at times I wished your heart had made a different choice. In the end, I know it made the right one.
Contrite words. Yet I must wonder whether he truly meant them. After Illidan faced defeat atop the Black Temple, I tried to let go of my feelings, my distrust and bitterness. When I learned that he was alive, leading the fight against the Legion on the Broken Shore, I could not bring myself to speak to him. The time for talk has passed. Seems he has a duty to fulfill. As do we. Let us be about it, champion.
A bit harsh to be sure, but then again, quite a bit of history there, and who knows what the reaction might be in the future, if and when Illidan returns. Instead, the major story that they gave Tyrande in Legion, well, there were two to be fair. One was all about the Emerald Nightmare. Pretty much a repeat of the events from the novel Stormrage, that which we covered last week. They're now shown in-game for all to see. While Malfurion and Tyrande, they've been able to push the nightmare back all the way to the Rift of Aln. Even back then, they knew that one day they were going to have to deal with his threats. It's within Val Shara where this battle took place. Heroes, they needed to get their hands on the tears of Elune, but in their way, there was Xavius the Nightmare Lord. The corruption of the nightmare, it's been spreading across the lands. When it finally completely takes over Cenarius, Malfurion loses it, charges off on his own. We quickly give chase on the back of Ysera, but that's exactly what Xavius wanted to happen. The Great Green is shot out of the sky with the corrupted Tear of Elune, and then turned into a servant of the nightmare.
Malfurion! Where is my beloved?
She saw him in a vision, and the High Priestess has come looking for her beloved. Together, we try to save Malfurion, pushing through the many tricks of the Nightmare Lords.
Your beloved Malfurion awaits within. But what's this? Which Malfurion is real, and which is part of the nightmare?
I have no time for games.
Until finally, we catch up to them.
Tyrande Whisperwind. I have longed for this encounter for many years. Your adoring husband will be joining me in the nightmare. His was a special invitation. And our dear Ysera. Would you believe she's had a change of heart? She will aid me in my conquest of Val'Sharah, starting with your precious Temple of Elune. Such a dilemma, High Priestess. Kneel beside your beloved as he draws his final breath? Or watch the temple of your goddess burn?
I've had Joanna ask on Twitter if I could talk a little bit about Tyrande's relationship with Ysera, but it's mostly assumption or just being there. The dragons, they've been in touch with the Night Elves for millennia. They have fought together in the War of the Ancients. And then of course they blessed Teldrassil, which gave the druids easier access into Ysera's domain. That's where Malfurion and the others, they work closely with her to protect the wilds. And it's through that connection that Tyrande knows of her. A friendship for millennia, and dragons in general for the Warcraft lore, they're greatly revered. Even when they're not aware that they're talking with a dragon, there's still this gut feeling of dealing with this ancient, powerful, amazing being. And of course, Ysera was also part of a wedding ceremony, so to now be forced to end her life.
Now Xavius has me by the throat. I must abandon my beloved and subdue the most beautiful creature I have ever known. Are you truly lost, Ysera? After all we have built, all we have done? By the light of Elune, we will end this madness! I will end your torment, Dreamer. And I promise, we will avenge you!
Forgive me. It felt so real.
Ysera goes off into the Shadowlands, leaving behind a cleansed Tear of Elune. While Malfurion, he would be saved and the nightmare was dealt with. Then the second major story that she played a part in, that takes us into Suramar. This is the city of her birth, where she spent her days as novice priestess. When the Legion, back then, tried to claim the world during the War of the Ancients, we know of the resistance that was formed, the one that Tyrande was a part of, but not all the Night Elves joined them. Those inside of Suramar, they decided to create a massive shield around their city, which protected them from the demons and the Sundering. Over the centuries that followed, fueled by the source of power which is called the Nightwell, these Night Elves slowly but surely evolved into the Nightborn. Now the Legion has returned, and their leader, Grand Magistrix Alyssant, she believes that it's best to lower their shield, give in to the Legion's demands for the sake of their people. Not all are down with that decision. A rebellion is formed, one that we got to join. Over time, we managed to fight our way towards the Nighthold, but not just heroes of Azeroth with the Order Halls backing them up. We also saw a union of the Elves, Night Elves, Blood Elves, High Elves, and the Nightborn. They came together to face the threat of Suramar. And despite it being thousands of years ago, Tyrande has not forgotten about the choices that the Nightborn made.
Arcanist Thylisra, I remember where your order stood in the War of the Ancients. How do we know you won't betray us and become the next Elisand, the next Ajara?
We do not intend to be slaves to the Nightwell. We seek to drive the Legion from Suramar and put an end to Elisand's oppression.
The Kaldori will fight to see the Legion defeated and the Nightwell destroyed. Beyond that, We shall see where Elun's wisdom guides us.
And while the Union of Elves, the heroes of Azeroth and our forces were able to secure victory within the Nighthold, this little interaction right here, as well as feeling more of a kinship with the Blood Elves, it would ultimately push the Nightborn into becoming allies with the Hordes. A horde that is now under the leadership of War Chief Sylvanas Windrunner. And they promised she was going to make Garrosh look like an amateur. We now know that she was in league with the jailer. So the overall goal, it was just sending as many souls to the Shadowlands as she could. Back then, it was sold under the idea of taking care of the Alliance, taking care of the Horde's enemy, before their fragile peace crumbled again, and the Alliance might take them out instead. So it was that the Horde marched into Elven lands, with the goal of taking out one of their leaders and holding Teldrassil hostage. That way, the Alliance couldn't retaliate, and despite their best efforts, the Elves were unable to hold the line. They were making plans, evacuating the Tree portals. They were making ready for an occupation. Tyrande told those that were forced to stay behind that she and Malfurion would do all they can so that as many of them as possible would be safe. For those who must remain, do not fear. If Teldrassil does fall to the Hordes, the Alliance will come hard on their heels. We have friends, and we have our will. We are Keldori. And when the Banshee Queen had all that she wanted on a silver plate, meaning the Archdruid in front of her, struck down with a dishonorable blow by Saurfang, she then made the odd choice of not taking a kill right here. Instead, she passed it on to the Orc, for some reason, and the High Overlords simply couldn't do it.
You have led your horde in service of death. You will regret this day.
Malfurion, no! You did not kill him, Orc. Why?
I struck without honor. I did not deserve to end him.
This entire war is without honor. How dare you spill so much innocent blood for nothing?
Not for nothing. We spill blood so that the Horde will endure.
Tyrande, with the use of a Hearthstone, teleports her beloved back to Stormwind, while Saurfang returns to the War Chief empty-handed. A miracle granted by the honorable hand of a foolish old Orc and an overconfident War Chief. Best to lay blame where it belonged. This was her mistake, as much as Saurfang's, Sylvanas thought to herself. This conquest of Darnassus, it would rattle the Keldori people. They would grieve for their lost, fear for their imprisoned, and tremble at the thought of the Horde ransacking their homes. But they would not fall to despair. Not anymore. Malfurion's impossible survival, it would give them hope. Their wound would heal. Even in this dark hour, they would say, Elun still watches over us. And that was almost certainly true, wasn't it? Elun had intervened. Perhaps she had even stayed Saurfang's killing blow. And she wouldn't be the only force beyond the Alliance to oppose Sylvanas' true objective. Sylvanas' anger grew cold. She had known this would happen. It had simply come sooner than expected, that was all. But they still had Teldrassil and Darnassus for the taking. That would prevent the Alliance from retaliating. And yet, Sylvanas decides to give the order, to burn it to the ground. They'd expected to be taken captive, but to be taken captive alive. They did not expect that the people were going to be consumed by the flames. Men, women and children, all those that are trapped within the tree. Desperately, they tried to evacuate as many as they could to Stormwind. We saw Mia Greymane, Gen Greymane's beloved, stay until Gen showed up and took her with him. In her arms was the last child of the Keldori to be saved from Teldrassil. I shall name you Finel, Tyrande said, meaning the last. For you are the last Keldori to escape with your life. The World Tree was more than a city. It was an entire land, home to countless innocents. How many Night Elves were elsewhere in Azeroth? Far too few. Now, they were all who remained of their people. Sylvanas Windrunner had committed genocide. And so, kicks off the expansion Battle for Azeroth. And through it, we repeatedly hear the Night Elves being pissed off at their goddess Elun for not doing more. Some even believing that she abandoned them. This has also raised quite a bit of discussion within the community. Could Elune have done something more here? And considering it's a fantasy story, the options are definitely there. She's blessed her followers and Tyrande with some great abilities. Even during the burning of Teldrassil itself, she was able to give a painless sleep to those that were still left in the tree, so that while the fires claimed them, they would not actually suffer. Could she have placed the enemy asleep as well? And it's a difficult discussion to have, because again, the possibilities are endless. But what is important is that the Night Elves believe it, and some amongst them believe that they were abandoned.
With this offering, I demand to wear your darkest face.
For our Tyrande, she was done playing nice priestess. No longer would she ask and say thanks for the blessings received. Now she demanded Elune to empower her, to make her the instrument of her vengeance. An incredibly dangerous but powerful ritual, yet nothing would stand in the way of claiming revenge. It turned her into the legendary Night Warrior. With it, they managed to kick the Horde out of their lands, take down one of Sylvanas' Valkyr. While the story and the war continued, we eventually dealt with none other than Queen Azora and the old god N'Zoth. Considering how much of an impact this has had on the life of Tyrande, it would have been really cool to see her play some part in it. Instead, they decided to give Chandris a tiny role. Then, as it was with Garrosh, even the Horde turned on their war chief, and the world made ready for Siege of Orgrimmar 2.0. That wouldn't exactly play out though, as the Banshee Queen just abandoned them all. An armistice is signed, Alliance and Horde learning the same old lesson, that working together makes them stronger, and peace, it might be the answer. Not for Tyrande though, not as long as the Banshee Queen still lives. She will have her vengeance, or she'll die trying. And she's not the only one that wants to see the Banshee Queen pay, but getting to Sylvanas is quite difficult. On top of that, things in the afterlife, they seem to be a bit wonky, so Thrall wants to have a chat with the Night Elves, find out what they know, find out if they could smooth over relations, and he's actually welcome to come on over to Teldrassil, where the Night Elves are now hanging out, but only under one condition: he must bring what is owed. What possible balm could he offer to soothe a wound so impossibly deep? Well, our boy Goel offers a sincere apology of the Hordes, which obviously, it does nothing. Tyrande stays silent, while Chandris is open to the idea of working together again, with Maiev being completely against it. Malfurion thinks that this was all too soon, but then Tyrande breaks her silence. When you have washed the bodies of 1,000 Kaldori burned and broken, when you have fallen to your knees and kissed the feet of 1,000 mourning souls, when you look into their eyes and tell them, our Horde has changed, and they believe you, only then will I accept your apology and treat you as my equal. How many orphans did your Horde create that day? Those children will grow. They will wake each morning tasting ash, and one day they will come for you. Oh, they will come for you, and they will make you taste that same ash, and then you will know their justice. Realizing that it was time to go, Thrall told her, I will bring you what is owed then. I will not bring you words or promises. I will bring you the head of Sylvanas Windrunner. The faintest trace of a smile appeared on Tyrande Whisperwind's face. Do it then, or never seek to speak with me again. Vengeance is all that she has on her minds. They were able to bring her Syrah Moonwarden. Not what was owed, but at least it was a start, as the head of Sylvanas is still firmly on her body. She has been able to rip apart the helmet of domination, shatter the veil between this world and the next. Several of her dark agents have swooped down and kidnapped Thrall, Jaina, Bane, and Anduin. They also tried to take Tyrande, but the Night Warrior was too much to handle. And when Nephanos was having a ball on the Plaguelands, heroes were trying to take him on. It was the Night Warrior that ultimately got a revenge.
Where is she?
With him, of course. In the darkest place. Along with every soul burned to ash in your precious tree.
Where is she?
Go on. Kill me. You'll send me right to my lady. Beyond the veil, she shattered. Oh, Tyrande. High Priestess. Night Warrior. completely powerless to stop the coming.
For Teldrassil.
Then it was time for a rescue mission to get our leaders back. Heroes of the world would have to venture into the Shadowlands, into Hell, or the Maw itself to get them. Tyrande was told by Gen not to come with, but no one can forbid her anything anymore. She came with us on that everlasting quest of trying to claim revenge. We then ran into her again during the Night Fae Covenant campaign, where she scoured the halls of Torghast in search of the Banshee Queen.
Pain, suffering, no hope.
The souls of the Kaldori, twisted into that monstrosity! Destroy it! Oblivion would be a kinder fate.
Failed us! Tyrande, the flames! Teldrassil, Sylvanas! No peace in death! Fire! Burn with us! Burn! Abandoned by Elune, priestess, lies.
Forgive us. There is no other way.
The Banshee has won! All life consumed!
Sylvanas will never win. This I vow.
Avenge! Teldrassil! Avenge us!
The Banshee will know your suffering 100-fold. All truths are revealed. Come with us. We can leave the darkness of the Maw behind and bring you back to the light. No, my hunt will not cease until every soul is saved, and the Banshee has answered for her crimes. This Maw Walker has the means to deliver our brothers and sisters from their torment. If that is true, then I entrust this sacred duty to you, child of Teldrassil. Save the souls of our people, while I claim vengeance upon the one who put them here.
That's where she would remain. Well, the Night Fae, they managed to save some of the elves that burned at Teldrassil, bringing them back to Ardenweald. While the Mawwalkers worked on their covenants, empowered their forces to inevitably confront the Jailer and Sylvanas. The forces of darkness didn't sit still either. Anduin has been forced to serve, the Boy King being the perfect tool to strike out. Bastion was first, and then they took on Ardenweald.
Tyrande, I understand you've been looking for me. Come then. Show me Elune's wrath.
Elune gave me her strength. The wrath is mine alone!
Warrior, I expected more.
I will take your head, Banshee! Just like I took his! You didn't know. Your The Master is keeping secrets from you!
They broke the through! Fall back! Fall back!
A trick. No! Eluna, it is time. Inqua Melema. At last.
And yet, the Knight's power wanes. Once again, she denies you victory.
Mother Moon, do not forsake me. End this.
Bask in the dying embers of your goddess's bargain, Tyrande. Nothing lasts.
Tyrande, can you hear me?
She was so close on getting that vengeance, desperately calling to Elune to finish it. And yet the powers of the Night Warrior slipped away at just the wrong time. We don't know if there's a big reason behind it. As it stands right now, it seems like her battery just ran out at the wrong moment. Ysera passed on into the Shadowlands, now bound to Ardenweald. She puts her old friend to sleep. The powers of the Night Warrior, they're consuming her, and we have met with Night Warriors of the past that were fully consumed. The Night Fae have been working really hard on gathering these souls in a desperate attempt to save Tyrande. Tyrnex, a Night Warrior of old. In life, they tried to get rid of the Night Warrior's power by sharing it with their beloveds. And still, they died for their efforts. But perhaps if we gathered more of them, with all of her powers combined, Tyrande might have a shot.
I remember this power. A double-edged sword.
Seldom have I seen a mortal wield such rage.
Elune.
Incoming! Incoming!
Chandras, maintain your hold on her!
Mindo, please! You must calm yourself!
Anu Torini Ashta!
Tyrande! Do not lose yourself to anger!
I don't think she's listening. The Night Warrior's fury will annihilate us. Contain it!
Mawwalker, aid me! Incoming!
Her strength grows. It overwhelms her.
Good!
No! She is absorbing even more of Elune's power!
That is really not good! The force Tyrande wields threatens to consume her, and will leave this grove devastated. My queen, we need your help.
My sister's power in my forest. I will have answers. How dare you come here, sister? After our cries for aid went unheard, unanswered.
I heard your cries, felt your pain, and in the wake of tragedy, sent forth a cascade of souls to sustain you.
Oh, the great tree. All who perished there were claimed by the Maw.
Then I have condemned my favored children. By our hand, we may yet guide their souls unto their spring, starting with this one. Tyrande invoked me. She must choose vengeance or renewal.
Elune speaks through one of her most favorites, and we don't know a whole lot about what or who Elune actually is. In the past, there was a conversation between Velen and Tyrande, in which the leader of the Draenei, he dared suggest that Elune seems to be very similar to a Naru, a notion that Tyrande quickly pushed away, and politely asked him to keep his opinions to himself. And yet, that idea was somewhat supported in Legion with the whole Light's Heart questline. Back then, we had a shard of the Naru Zera, which reacted to the tear of Elune, but now we know that Elune is actually connected to the Winter Queen, similar to how Ardenweald is connected to the Emerald Dream. Still, quite a bit to be explored and explained there. It's also uncertain what exactly Elune means with "in the wake of tragedy, send forth a cascade of souls to sustain you." This is about the burning of Teldrassil, of course, but what influence did she exactly have on the Night Elf spirits? There have been many different opinions, many different takes. Time will tell, I suppose. The Night Warrior is given a choice, to resume the path of vengeance or go for renewal, since apparently both was not gonna be an option. Despite wanting nothing but revenge for the last two expansions, Tyrande decides to go with renewal.
High Priestess, even in the depths of the maw, I could feel your presence. I knew you would not abandon us.
Thank you, child, but I nearly did. I was so consumed by the fires of vengeance that I was blind to the ashes at our feet. I see now that while many of our people desire retribution, what we need most is renewal.
As the new moon gives way to the full, as darkness recedes in the light. Be it as the Night Warrior or the High Priestess, I have faith in your leadership of the Kaldorei.
Then I shall endeavor to be worthy of it. Watch over us from the boughs, Astari. Elune Adore.
Quite a change of hearts. It must have been one hell of a nap. And then there's this final conversation.
It is good to see you whole again, Mindo. I had feared you might be forever lost. Ever since Darkshore, rage has swelled inside me. A tide under which I seemed destined to drown. It was not until I heard Elune's voice that I recognized the grief buried beneath my anger. Sorrow intertwined with a deep sense of betrayal. When Teldrassil burned, I could not understand why the goddess did not intervene. Why she would allow so many to be lost. But I did not know of Ardenweald, of the duty and purpose that awaited the souls of our people. At least, before the maw. Perhaps we can never truly know the ways of the gods, my daughter. But I believe Elune made a choice to aid her sister, not to cause us sorrow. The Winter Queen faced hard choices as well. She and Mother Moon are bound together in an eternal cycle, one of death and rebirth. A cycle the Kaldorei must now rejoin. No more looking to the past. It is time to embrace our future.
You can have many discussions about what Elune could or couldn't do for the elves with the burning of Teldrassil. But it's safe to say that at the very least, Chandris believes that she could have done something more, and Tyrande goes with it, and for some reason, they're perfectly fine with this. The Night Warrior decides to let go of her burning vengeance, no more looking to the past and embrace their future. Very impressive for someone who held a 10,000-year grudge towards the Nightborn of Suramar for walling off their city. And I'm kinda curious what critical part the Kaldorei played within this cycle of rebirth that they're now rejoining, considering that they've been immortal for 10,000 years. I guess slowly aging and dying after Warcraft 3, that meant a whole lot for Ardenweald. Safe to say, the Night Warrior story arc, it's one that's been dropped quite unceremoniously. And while the end result, it might not be awful, the path that led there is far too short. It deserves just so much more story and attention. But yeah, that's where we're at with the story of Tyrande at the moment. Now I would love to see a story arc diving into the domain of life. The domain of Elune and witness elves that have an actual, reasonable response to finding out that their goddess messed up. That their goddess actually sent their souls to torment in the maw while trying to send them over to her sister. Maybe a deep dive into what Elune actually tried to do. That's the direction they could take for Tyrande and the elves. We also got Sylvanas, who now has her soul returned, will most likely play a part in bringing down the jailer. Would Tyrande be able to hear her side of the story and then decide to work together? Well, yeah, it's not impossible. Seeing the drastic change in her mindsets, anything's possible right now. But who knows? Maybe this is where the story just ends for Tyrande within the Shadowlands. And then later on, we're gonna find out more about rebuilding their society amongst Teldrassil. Plenty of paths still left to go. Plenty of stories still left to tell. But for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Really hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the story of Tyrande. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, see ya!